Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to be going over how to set up files to print. And if you watched the last video in this series, I downloaded a couple free 3D models from Scan the World off of My Mini Factory, and I have them both here. They came through as STL files, and this software I've loaded up is also free, Chitubox. And this is the latest version, I think, V 1.6.3. And I'm just going to take you through the process of how I set up models to print. I'm printing off an Elegoo Mars, the regular, not the Pro. And there's a ton of different ways to set up your prints. I'm just going to be going over how I've done it and the methods that I've used that have given me the most success. So let me bring in these models and I'll show you how I'll set them up. So this is the bust of Medusa, and right away you can see it came in a little too big, and anything that's highlighted red is outside of the bounding box and will not print. So I mean, regardless, we don't want to be printing this large anyway. So let's scale this down, and you can see 125 millimeter for the height is way too big. Let's scale this down. Something like this is good. I mean, that's still a decent size. Let's rotate it a little bit. I don't know why, I like to have them facing front. And I'll just place this there. And then the other model that I downloaded, Chitubox is a little buggy, guys. Sometimes it goes back. Is Rodin's The Thinker. And let's scale this guy down too, so he's about the same size. And actually, let me rotate him a little bit. And just make sure everything's within the bounding box. Alright, so first thing we do is scale them down to fit within the bounding box, something, a decent size. And the great part about resin 3D printing is these, will take the exact same amount of time. If I only printed one of these, it would take the exact same amount of time as if I print both. Well, roughly, because they're just about the same height. So, as opposed to FDM printers, filament printers, where the amount of stuff you have on your print bed increases the print time, with resin printers it is only the height, because it's just printing out layers, layer by layer. And each layer takes the same amount of time. So I will actually link below, because when I first got a 3D printer, I just poured over every tutorial that I could find, and some of the best ones that I've found I will link below. My support settings, I'm using 3D Printing Pros. He's got a bunch of great videos on how to set up 3D prints. And then there's a couple other ones. I think 3D Print Farm is another good resource. And I think another channel is 3D Printing Nerd. I'll link them below. But for now, this is kind of like, I guess, the amalgamation of those tutorials. So the first thing that I do is actually raise them off the print bed, and it probably would be fine to print these solid, but I want to save some resin and also show you guys how to print hollow. So I am gonna raise these up and hollow them out. So you want to, the minimum I think is 5 millimeters off the print bed. And this is going to allow the resin that gets trapped inside the hollowed model to drip out. So let's hollow this one first. So I say 100% precision. I don't know why you can't see, but it's set to 100. And we'll make the thickness 1.3 is good. So let's hollow this one out. And then it takes a little minute to think, and then it shows you what it's hollowed out. So I think that's a good thickness. So none of the snakes are hollow. It looks like just, and I don't think you want the snakes hollow because it would make it too unstable. So the next thing you want to do is dig some holes. 2mm is good. You're never going to see them underneath. And raising them off the print bed is another important thing, is to allow some of that resin to drip out. So let's do 2mm is fine, and the depth is good. So a good way to do this is actually this bar raises and lowers the visibility, and you can go from the bottom too, which is super helpful when you're doing supports. So all the way down to the bottom here, and you can do this from the bottom or the top. I'm just going to dig a hole, add hole, boom. And it's really important to always add 2. I'm going to add 4. This also helps with suction, which is another reason why prints might fail. I think I'm going to do an entire video on just print failures and troubleshooting print failures. But that is a whole other topic in itself because there is a lot that goes in it. Alright, then let's hollow out the Rodin Thinker. It's hollow, we'll do 1.3 again. There we go. And one of the things that you want to make sure of, you can click on X-ray mode. You don't want any, so it looks like there's some hollow bits. It's really tough to tell. I don't think there is, but you don't want any sections of the model that are hollow that are not attached to anything else, because then you're just going to create this little air bubble in there. And uncured resin can get trapped in there and cause lots of problems. So right here you can see his arms are hollow. Well, I don't know how well you can see, but his arm is hollow, and there's actually a little tiny hole that looks like it connects with the hollowed out leg, which is good. This arm ends here. The hollow ends right midway through the forearm, which is good. It may cause problems, but you just want to make sure that when you wash these out, if you're washing them out with either water or IPA, that the solution that you're washing it with can get in all parts of the hollowed model, I think is the rule. Alright, let's turn off X-ray mode, and we'll do the same thing. We'll add a couple holes at the base here, and I might actually add a couple more because this base is so big. 2, 3, let's do 6. You could just create one giant hole, and I think you probably wouldn't need to. Oops, not hollowed out or too deep to dig. Let's try that one more time. Failed, not hollowed out. Maybe it's because I'm over the foot. Let's try here. Huh. Maybe there's a limit to how many holes you can put. Oh, never mind. Oh, there you go. You got a 5-sided dice here and then one little guy over here. Oh, well, it's probably overkill to have this many holes, but we got it. And if you're really worried about having holes in your model, you can always plug them up with putty, or you can actually take a drop of resin and put it, fill out the hole after the model is cured and cleaned and everything, and then just cure it with a UV light or the sun. Alright, so that takes care of the hollowing. Now on to the supports. And I've never printed these models. If these supports fail, So be it. We'll troubleshoot that down the line. I think they'll probably come through. These snakes are pretty complicated, and going to require a lot more supports than this guy. But let's start with this guy. So going up and down with your vertical and or with your vertical slice view, what we're looking for is any area, they're called islands, that are just not supported or not attached. And you want to support more than just those islands, but as a general rule, that's the most important to support. But there's other areas that are just as important, I think, to support, just for structural reasons. But yeah, you can see how well this was, or the thinker was designed to not break off. And if you look at the Venus de Milo, you can see tiny parts like the nose and the arms, if they're being held out, usually break off on ancient models. If you go to this bottom view, you can see the areas in red are problematic areas that are probably going to have trouble printing. So you're going to have to worry about these fingers and obviously the base. So I usually work from heavy then to smaller. So these are the different size supports. And if you're new to 3D printing, the larger the support, the more problems it's going to cause, the more difficult it's going to be to snap off those supports, and it might actually cause damage to your model. So you want to kind of hide them where no one's going to see them, and you want to use lighter supports on areas that need less support. And there's kind of like a whole art to 3D printing itself. So let's start with the heavies, and I'll say add support. These are 3D Printing Pros, I'm pretty sure, unless I have to re-import the support settings, but I think they carried over when I saved them. He has his own settings for these that are as small as you can go, pretty much, while still being usable. So let's start. Make sure add support is clicked, and then I'm just going to be clicking around the outside of the model and then working my way in. A lot of people will rotate their model. To like a 45-degree angle. And I think that works in a lot of circumstances, but for this model, I'm not going to do that. I think that it'll print better just up and down. All right. That's good. Let's go back to this and actually save this project. All right, let's actually go back and save this project so we don't lose our work. And I'll just... Sometimes when you say save as, it opens up the window in another screen. Let's see. We'll just call this the Thinker Medusa. Now let me bring, actually, I don't know why it's not showing up. There you go. I was typing this out on the other screen. So it gives you the option here. I save this as a CheetahBox file. You can save it as an STL. And essentially you're going to be saving out two files. The ChooToBox file, which will allow you to like go back and edit this, and then you'll be saving out a different ChooToBox file, which is not available here once you slice it at the end. So we'll just call this the Thinker Medusa print 01. Alright, let's go back. Supports. So I think that's good for the heavy supports. I'm going to switch to the medium supports for these fingers. And anywhere where you can see like a solid, you see how this comes down and it's its own dark circle here? That's where you definitely want to support. That's usually indicates an island. See here? The little dark circle. And the thumb as well. I'm going to put a couple more on here. And you can bring these up from the bottom so you can see a little bit better. Down here. And I'm actually going to switch to lights just so you don't want these fingers to break off. And I'll put a couple more up here. Easy. And then underneath here. Now this is within the model, so you won't ever snap these off. This is just for the structure, the integrity of the model. And let me put a couple here. These are going to be tough to snap off, but you can see. Offer a little bit extra support. Why won't this? Sometimes it's a little fidgety. See if there's any over here. And I think that might be it. I really don't see anything else that needs support. I'll add probably a couple lights to the knee just to help the structure. And then I'm going to load up this bottom with mediums, because you don't want these supports to snap off and it'll give you print failure. I'm just filling in all these holes. I'm gonna end up having to sand this bottom, because when you put this many supports, it gives you like a little like a puckered effect. All right, that's probably overkill. And since I'm doing overkill, I might as well just put a couple lights here. And usually you want to try to avoid, if you can, putting in these supports where it's going to attach to the model, because that's going to leave. Oof, I don't like where that is. Well, let's just see how it prints out. I don't think this is too bad. Some of these need a little bit of support. You can see here there's islands. Well, we're just going to have to see what we get. one more here. And then you can go into, well, there's delete support, and you can also edit the support. And just bring this down to where it's needed a little bit more. And this one I'd like to do the nose. Bring this down a little bit. Oops. Having a little bit of trouble navigating this guy. Let's see here. So if you look from above, yeah, I think we're good. I'm still a little worried about this hand here. It doesn't look like it's going to give me anything clean. Well, we'll just see how that comes out. Sometimes it seems like it's going to be a massive overhang, and when you print it out, it just prints fine. Let's save this. Yeah, make sure you save your work because Chitubox is a little buggy. And see, it actually, when you switch over to this settings instead of the supports, it replants your model back on the print bed, but when you switch back over, it'll bring it back up. Let's see. I don't know why it did this. I don't want this. So this is a raft, and I usually do not use this. Let's switch to none. Alright. So this one's going to be a little bit trickier. Add supports, heavy. Alright. Now I could put one guy right here. Oh, that's too heavy. Let's do a medium. So sometimes I'll put it on the outside and then I'll edit them to where they're needed more. And it's nice to have them overlapping like this because then that makes the supports a lot stronger. Alright, let's put some more back here. So again, you can see how many little islands there are. Oops. I think those need to be lights. Yeah, if you're going to have have a support touch the model, like the base of the model somewhere, at least make it a light support. Oh. Let's go back here. I don't think this little ridge here, I don't know if this needs support or not. I think it might be fine. This ridge I'm going to throw a couple on. Some under the eyebrow. Let's actually make this, let's switch to light. And edit these a little bit. Oops. Sometimes it won't let you grab them. Let's put this one here. And one more I'll add in to support the nostrils. There you go. Now we can really just go to town supporting all these snakes. As tricky as this is, I can only imagine sculpting this out of marble. These are going to be a little tricky. They might cause some damage to the model, but I'd rather have that than have the whole thing fail. think we're just about there. Definitely picked out a complicated model for this exercise, but at least it'll show you. I mean, it'll be a good reference for complex models. Most models, I don't think are going to require this level of support, and I'm probably going overboard with this a little bit. Actually, under here probably needs some support. And I should probably throw some on the interior as well. Just for some structural integrity. Can't hurt. And let's just go to the top and see if there's anything else. This is going to be a hell of a cleanup job, but we are going to just have to see how it turns out. It's amazing. How the hell did he even sculpt this? How did he get into this interior area? He must have been using very, very fine tools. All right, I'm going to call this a day. I can always come back and edit this model later, depending on how it comes out. All right, and then, so once you have all this set up, it took quite a while, you come back into your settings and you slice it. I'm just going to show you guys how I have my stuff set up. So when you bring in your model, you'll hit this add new printer, and it's got setups for all of these different printers available. And these are the standard Elegoo Mars settings. And I've had some success with these. I've also had some print failures with this. And these are some other settings that I've tried. This is how I print out most of everything now. And the longer exposure time, the more bottom layers, and the smaller layer height gives you a cleaner print, less layer lines. It does take longer, but I usually don't really care about that because I usually put it either while I'm working during the day, I'll print out, or at night while I'm sleeping, I'll print. So it doesn't really matter if it takes 6 hours or 8 hours or 10 hours. And then advanced, I usually turn on anti-aliasing. And this will also just give you a little bit of a smoother result. All right, so that's the print settings. Everything else is the same. And then it'll give you the resin cost. I think the resin costs about $30 a liter. The other resin I have, I think, was $50, the water washable, but I'm not using that for this. And then make sure you have the settings selected that you want. And I'm not sure if this matters, but I always say, let me actually move this a little bit closer to him. It's nice to have your models in the center. And they're not touching. That should be good. I don't think that matters too much. I don't know if this matters, but I always say select all, and then I say slice. And this will take a minute. Cool. And then it'll give you this preview mode of what it looks like sliced. And you can see, almost like an MRI, what your model's going to look like. And it'll give you the price. So it's going to cost 82 cents based on $30 per liter. And it's going to take a little under 8 hours to print. So I'm going to save this in the same folder. And this is the other file. I can never remember this. CBDDLP. And this is the file that you plug in and select when you're going to print. And that's everything that there is to it. Make sure you wait until it's finished writing the file. I've made that mistake where I closed out of Chitubox and while it was still writing, and it can take a while to write. All that's left to do is plug or transfer the file over to USB, plug the USB into your printer, select it, and print it, and it should work. And I'll make a follow-up video to this to show you guys how this print turned out and show you how I clean them and remove the supports and everything. So thank you for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope this was helpful if you're getting into 3D printing. Hopefully these prints turn out all right. If you have any questions about anything I went over, or if there's any models you'd like to see me print out, let me know in the comments below. Please like the video, please share, please subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, thanks for watching, guys.